the coming 4 more chapters. Okay, so without further ado, I think I'll just pass it to chapter 1 group for chapter 1. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And that is from group 1 lah.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
Alhamdulillah,
yes.
I think all 10 of you are here. No one is using 2 accounts, right? Noraini, Norihan. Okay, yes, all 10 of you are here then. Good, Alhamdulillah. So let's proceed. I am starting the time 6:00. From my laptop here is 6:07. We consider the starting time to 6:10 lah. So let's have the first group then. 6:10, 20 minutes, 6:30, I'll stop your group. So yes, please. Which group?
Yeah, our group.
So please. Today is 2nd. 3rd of 12. We have 10. Okay, good. Alhamdulillah, 10. You can just present now. So yes.
I cannot present.
Why?
How to request to present? I mean to show my screen.
Can you just accept? Because
it's coming from us or from you?
From you. What about maybe in your other group? As long as they have your yes, we can. Alhamdulillah, 6:10. Should start now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Proceed, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin nabiyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allah rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil 'aliyyil 'azim. All right. Thank you for our respective Dr. Mahyudi for giving me the floor to present. And today, inshallah, I will present for our summary chapter for this book entitled Economic Rules by Rodrik. And we are from 5 members of the group, which is me, Ahmad Shakir bin Razi, and Hafiz Kia, Abdulrazak Mahdi Muhammad, Syekh Ali Zakaria Omar, and Musa Silibe. And inshallah, I will be presenting for chapter 1 and chapter 2, and the last chapter will be presented by our brothers. All right. For the first chapter is what entitled is what models do. And Rodrik, first in this chapter, in the first chapter, Rodrik tried to give a brief explain what does models do in economics. Before that, if we can read the introduction, he give a simple, brief situation how an economic decision and economic practice is varies in different situation that have been occurred before in history. And he simply put up all the stories in the introduction, and in the first chapter he briefly want to summarize or want to introduce to us what does economic do with the models, what is the function of the models. So one of his argument, he agreed with an explanation from the Swedish economist named Axel Leijonhufvud. I think that's the correct pronunciation. I don't know. I just Google it up. Axel Leijonhufvud say that in his article, Life Among the Econ. He said that how economists' obsession with a model, referring to stylized mathematical model that are economists' tool of the trade. For him, what makes model useful is that it captures an aspect of reality, while most of economists only care about the model without it. It means that Rodrik say that most economists only care about the model, despite of having the thought it can be applied in real life or not. And some of the economists later in the chapter, Rodrik argued that some of the economists stray from their study in the economic model, in building the economic model. And then he also quoted several critics on economists with orthodoxy and jargon term and mathematics, too much mathematics. Then Rodrik explained the role of the models to economists to capture the salient aspect of the social interaction. This is one of his opinion, what the models do. And then he described economic models by economists as same as physical models used by physicians or architects. Therefore, a model is limited and narrow it to explain a small story rather than to capture a complete story. Just like as a physician, when you have some, let's say, lung models, body lung models. So as well as that model, how the model is described, Rodrik analogized it as an economics model. It did not capture the complete story, only some certain or focus or maybe part of the story. And then Rodrik also say that a model is not only a solution that applicable for any situation. Meanwhile, Rodrik did agree models are useful to provide information about the results, since it tells us precisely what the likely outcome depend on. It only highlight how real world context influence the outcome. Later in the second chapter, if I'm not mistaken, Rodrik also explained that how models used to explain things, but it cannot, limited to expect or to predict things. And then it's the model only true to the extent with the critical assumption with the model. I mean, the model can be true only if it have the critical assumption. The assumption is the true determinants in what the model, we can call it as a true or not, as Rodrik argued. And then furthermore, Rodrik also explained and create analogies for models' role in current economics. In this subchapter, he said that he described model as a fables. Fables is described as simple setting far from it is simple setting far from real model and some lessons or outcome to be concluded at the end. Analogized to similar as economic model. Simple, set in abstract environment, and unrealistic with their assumptions. The author also was not the first to analogize it, as he quoted others who think the same, who studied the same, who argued the same, which is some of it, the name that he quoted is Ariel Robinstein, Nancy Cartwright, and others. And next, he also tried to analogize economic models as an experiment. He continued to explain the role of models in economics in other analogies such as experiments. He, though, agreed with Uskalimaki, where scientists often manipulate environment to achieve the result needed. While a modeler in economic model manipulating their assumptions. Yet both results require significant extrapolation before they can be applied to the real world. question the limits and compatibility of the model with real-world practice and real setting. Rodrik also questioned the limits and the compatibility of the model with real-world practice and real setting. Sorry, can I have an excuse, Doctor? Hello.
Yes, we can listen. We can hear you.
Okay. As I said before, Rodrik also questioned the limits and the compatibility of the model with the real world practice and the real setting. That's why he analogized it as an experiment, which the scientists do in pure science. Then for unrealistic assumptions, the author quoted the necessary of assumption as stated by Friedman, where he claimed that unrealistic assumptions were necessary part of theorizing why realism of assumption is irrelevant. The matter is that the theory made a correct prediction. Rodrik disagreed that realism of assumption is entirely irrelevant because realism filter to a critical assumption before a model can be treated useful, as he quoted from Paul Flyder. Then he keep arguing that an assumption is critical if its modification is in an arguable more realistic direction. He quoted and agreed in a way with Cartwright that criticizing economic model for using unrealistic assumptions is like criticizing Galileo's rolling ball experiment. The author, however, disagreed misuse by the modelers in their assumptions that abandon and violates realism. Moving on to the math and model, there is some kind of relationship between math and model. What Rodrik want to say here, mathematics is used to expose economic assumption and behavioral mechanism. In economics, the math used is not very advanced since only calculus. There's several calculation and Greek symbol has been illustrated in most economic journals. So basically in economic, math basically play two roles in economics. Math guarantee that component of a model, the assumption, behavioral mechanism, and main result are explicitly stated and transparent. And then math ensures the internal consistency of an economic model, which means the conclusions follow from the assumptions. And then Rodrik explained more about the math role, which is plays a purely instrumental role in expressing economic model. And then verbal arguments in economics without the math mechanism appear intuitive, sometimes fail under closer mathematical scrutiny and or are discovered to be incomplete. He also bring some of the story about how verbal models tend to be incomplete in the eyes of the economists, while it actually, after we use the mathematical approach, it tend to be the verbal arguments is true at all. It's not incomplete, but it just lack of the mathematics. Mathematics is not wise way to achieve achievement in the world of economy. However, the ability to develop or modify old ideas to strengthen the approach to problem solving or to structure new practical and empirical mechanism for contemporary use. And then Rodrik also further his argument in the book with subtitle Simplicity versus Complexity. There are the strengths and the weakness of simple as well as complex economic model. The simpler economic model grant a better understanding of economy, although the society and economy are complex system. So the simpler economic models are be treated to have the better understanding of the economy. Although our society is and our economy practice is complex. Complex economic model can be run and solved easily due outstanding access in computation power. We nowadays have the computation power, and the complex economic model can be run. Smaller and simpler models are the building blocks of complex large-scale models. The former acts as pillars by providing first-level theorizing for conceiving complex model. The simplicity was supported by the illustration from one paragraph of George Louis Borges' short story on accuracy in sign, which concludes that simpler models are capable of educating us about the world, and such models are relevant because of the simplicity that helps them to clarify the concepts. Models are never true, but there is truth in model. The word can be understood only by simplifying. This is from Rodrik. Yeah, he said that models are never true, but there is truth in model. It means that he somehow agree with the Borges, which is a simpler model are capable to educating us. Moving on to the Islamic worldview, idea of the author that may potentially not compatible with the Islamic worldview. Earlier in this chapter, the author is objecting orthodoxy in practicing economic, which is a contradiction for us as Muslims, that we are obliged to practice deen in our life in every aspect, such economic activity and practices. And what are the lessons for Islamic economists? First thing is economy is so synonymous with the model. However, a model is, as argued by the author, is not best guarantee with practicing good economic studies and research need to be done under Islamic economic plan with a good model. Need to empower, secondly, we need to empower all founded Islamic economics theories with mathematical approach to ensure the consistency and transparency as argued by Rodrik. And then engage the building model with more realistic situation with realistic assumption, simplify it but applicable with real world practices, and using mathematics to empirically shed a new light on an old topic, make an interactable problem solvable, make a better prediction with the improved model. That's all for chapter 1.
Okay, let's have a question and answer session before we proceed with chapter 2. We finished slightly early, tak apa. We can just have a good question and answer session then. Let's have questions from the other group. Questions should not come from the same group lah, the other group lah. Kok ada soalan.
Assalamualaikum.
Yes, is that Norihan? Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
I have a question on the mathematics, how we should incorporate mathematics in the model.
Yes.
But mathematics would be, we can actually have a lot of variables when we model, like when we do a modeling, right?
Yeah.
How can the model be simple when we actually use mathematics? Because actually, from my background, we use mathematics model to do predictions. So it's actually not really simple.
Okay. Before I answer, is there any of my fellow members want to answer it?
You have answer. You can answer.
All right. So from our discussion before, Rodrik says mathematical approach is needed to explain the model, to capture what is to capture the model, how the model works. That's the functioning of the mathematics. But it is not when Rodrik say that a model nowadays in conventional economy, we have many models that have simpler. That the simpler term is not mean that we don't involve mathematics. Say if in the books, Rodrik repeatedly give examples about the perfect competitive markets. We have perfect competitive market with such a simple setting. The simple is not in the math, but in the how they set up the model, how they explain the model, how the model works, what the assumption that they have set in the model. That's the simple things that Rodrik mentioned in the book. It's not the math things. The math is complicated, we all know. So that's the answer.
Thank you so much for the answer. I think I understand now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other question? While waiting for a question from the rest, I think I just want to get more clarification on the Islamic worldview just now. I mean, I didn't capture your explanation.
Okay.
Which part is it not compatible with Islamic worldview?
So in the earlier in the chapter, Rodrik seems to disagree that economic knowledge or economic principle shouldn't involve orthodoxy. So in Islamic worldview, we as a Muslim believe that we can apply. It's not we can, but we need to apply everything in a Sharia way lah. So that's one is I think may potentially not compatible with the Islamic worldview.
Can you show me where exactly? Because when you say earlier in the chapter, which part, so that I can appreciate your point better.
Okay, 1 second. Let me.
Maybe you can search the word orthodoxy.
Yeah. One in the page number 11, I guess, or 10.
Okay.
But that's not very clear. But there is later in the chapter, he also agreed that there is no universal ways to practice economics in the chapter number 2.
Chapter number 2, okay.
Yeah.
So why do you bring that comment here?
Because no. You mean why I bring the comment here instead of the chapter 2? Because the point that he didn't agree, similarly not too clear in the chapter 1, is almost like he tend to, but it's clear on chapter 2.
But how do you defend? I mean, you want to say he's wrong, so you have to point out where is he wrong, kan? In chapter 1. So now that's why I think I need to know also which part when you say earlier in the chapter, though, which part, in what argument, so that we can be fair to him lah. Kalau tidak, it's not fair to criticize somebody on the things that he himself did not say. So
I think the part that he quoted the harshest critics are here in chapter in page number 11 or 10, I think.
Okay.
Say that
harshest critics before Ha Jun Chang.
Before Ha, yeah.
Okay.
Simply, I believe that he quoted the critics as he agree.
Okay. He's saying he's actually trying to highlight that there's a lot of truth in somebody who disagree with orthodoxy.
How?
Yeah, because now he's referring to the maverick bolding, right?
Okay.
And among the hardship critical economists who have chosen pathways with orthodoxy. Okay, so now you're saying objecting orthodoxy, but this orthodoxy is not about. If you look at this is orthodoxy in terms of how do you do modeling. It's not orthodoxy as per what is your religious values. Dia tak sabit kat situ.
That's why I believe that in terms of in a Islamic worldview, we say that we believe that the Islam is applicable for any approach, any way of life, any knowledge. So as he declined any orthodoxy, I think that's is may not.
Okay. Okay, fine. Now, and also the group members, if you really appreciate that particular chapter, I mean this part, he's actually for orthodoxy. He himself, he is not negating orthodoxy. He still started by saying we need models. Models are a source of pride.
Yes, somehow.
Mathematics. So in other words, he's not totally objecting orthodoxy. Okay, that's where we are. I mean, I have to stress on this so that our critique is a is a relevant critique. We cannot criticize people for the things that he or she did not say. Will you not agree now? When he said about orthodoxy, actually is the way the role of maths. Orthodoxy seems to be it's in the form of using mathematical models. But he's saying bolding is actually talking about something else. Meaning, yes, we need rigor, but this rigor is making things complicated. So the complicatedness is where the other issue comes in. Simplicity and complexity. Remember the other subsection of the chapter talks about complexity and simplicity. In the end, we still want simplicity. So at the expense, when you want to proceed with mathematical rigor at the expense of simplicity, it will be dangerous for economics.
Yes.
So that was his point. So basically, this point is a misplaced one. The one that you are highlighting is not proper. I mean, if I am Rodrik, I'll feel offended. I did not say this. Okay. Okay. So the other question is, okay, let's look at a few other questions. We're supposed to have 6:40, eh?
Yes.
Six.
Ma also has a question.
Huh? Who has a question?
Ma Lanswan.
Ma. Where is the question, Ma? Huh?
It's okay.
Is it in the chat?
You first, Doctor.
Okay. Sorry, I have a question. Simple, complex. Talk about big data. Do you think big data is good or bad? Big data, good or bad?
Oh, sorry.
That's the question. Big data, is it good or bad?
The big data, Rodrik, mention the big data in this book it is not about the big data good or bad, but it is how we capable nowadays to assess the big data. So it is neither good or bad.
Okay. He started talking about critical assumption. Okay.
Yes.
And you are talking about all this. Let's look at the second slide 15. Slide 15, lessons, right? Lessons. Lessons. Okay, so that slide is talking about how Islamic economics should have models too.
Yes.
Okay, what are the critical assumptions in, and let's say we want to talk about Islamic economic system.
Okay.
What are the critical assumptions?
The critical assumption that you mean that can support the model, or?
Yes, you're right. Yes.
Basically, I think that's why I said the study must being conduct to before with creating the model, we must create the critical assumption. So, or do you mean?
Yeah, I know. Okay. Now let's say we have the model of the Medinan society.
Okay.
Okay, that is actually a model. Model looks at reality, so we present that as a model, the Medinan society model. Okay. So what is the critical assumption there? The prophetic model. Let's say the prophetic model of an Islamic economic system. What is the critical assumption in that model? Any other group? Kesian kat Syakir kena jaga anak lagi, korang tak nak tolong. Allah. Yes, the other group members, please help out. Hafiz, Musa, and so on. Zakaria. This is a group work, by the way.
Yes, please.
Can you repeat the question again?
Okay. We have the prophetic model of an Islamic economy, the Medinan society. Okay, in that society, in that model, the Medinan model, what is the critical assumption?
What does mean by Medinan?
During the Madinah's time.
Yeah.
Kan, during Prophet's time, we have an economic running.
Yes.
Okay, so that is a model.
Yes.
In that model, what is the critical assumption there? Okay.
Suppose we can I answer?
Sure. I mean, your group, not my group.
Suppose we can say some of the critical assumption is maybe during that time we have divine sources, which leads to an economic stability.
Divine sources, okay.
Therefore,
but divine sources are laws, sources of laws. Just like in Malaysia, okay, we have laws. But what good law does when the society ignore the law?
That's one point. So let's say that's why Rodrik try to emphasize in the chapter how realism must be captured, must be filter the critical assumption.
What was real then? What is the character of the companions?
Oh yeah, the people. I mean the moral value, their akhlaq, the
Okay.
acceptance.
Yes. Now we can proceed to chapter 2. Thank you for your responses. Now let's proceed to chapter 2.
We start at 6:42.
6:40.
6:40. All right.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to chapter 2. Bismillah. The chapter entitled as the
Seven.
science of economic modeling. Rodrik further his explanation in
Can you show your screen?
oh sorry.
Yeah.
Is it here? How about now?
Yep. Yeah,
Alright.
that's a nice look of New York, I think.
Okay. The
Downtown
chapter
New
2
York.
entitled as the science of economic modeling. Rodrik try to explain more about model and how the model have been built in the economic. After he explains the role of model in past chapter. So models make economics a science. Economic is a social science which does not have fundamental laws. At best, we can talk in terms of tendencies and likely consequences, which is not like mathematics, which generate precise statements and can be determined to be either true or false. Economics deals with the real world and it's much messier than that. So what makes models scientific? From Rodrik's perspective, models clarify the nature of hypotheses, make their reasoning transparent, and what they do and don't depend on. Their greater contribution is to open our eyes to the possibilities of counterintuition and unexpected consequences. What is the counterintuition? We will talk about that later in the slides. And then models facilitate the accumulation of knowledge by extending the collection of possible explanation for our understanding of a variety of social phenomena. Models imply an empirical method. They enable arguments to be judged right or wrong. Also, models allow knowledge to be generated based on commonly shared professional standards rather than prevailing hierarchies based on rank, personal connections, or ideology. If we see that this is his brief introduction about what he will talk later in the chapter, which is how model can imply an empirical method that enable argument to be judged right or wrong, and how model allow knowledge to be generated based on the commonly shared professional standards. Like if someone comes out with a model, there is another one else can restudy the models and criticize it. And then Rodrik further his explanation in clarifying hypothesis. How model clarifying the hypothesis. Millions of consumer, workers, firms, savers, investors, banks, and speculators, each of them seeking a strict personal advantage of their own, would collectively arrive at anything other than economic turmoil. Yet the model says the result is efficient. The advantage of mathematics is that we have a precise assertion. In truth, the model tells us precisely how the outcome is produced. Rodrik says in here that how the model didn't capture the real results. So he gave these examples and this. Furthermore, they explain economic modeling helps clarify argument that may be somewhat counterintuitive. Counterintuitive means that a model that have been based on intuition, somehow the real world or the real situation, it is counter to that intuition. Just as he stated previous examples. The more explicit the models are, the more transparent become the assumption we are making to interpret and extrapolate evidence. So Rodrik argued that the more explicit the models are, the more transparent the assumptions we are making to interpret and to extrapolate the evidence. Because what matters all is the evidence, not the intuition. Our intuition can be educated by economic models to take in the probability of certain unforeseen results. However, there were several cases that the author described as counterintuitive outcomes. One of it is if there is an increase in immigration in a state, our immediate intuition toward the effect in labor market would be based on supply and demand. An increase in the supply of workers should reduce its price, wages, which is wages. Okay, but in 1980, Miami received a massive influx of Cuban immigrants, totaling to 7% of the labor force in Miami. It discovered that the influx had almost no impact on wages or unemployment, even among the least educated employees most directly affected. So it is not the same. Then Rodrik mentioned how model progressing, scientific progress in economic model at one time. So economics is different than pure sciences. The way they approach to build the model is different from pure sciences. Rodrik mentioned this earlier in the chapter, in the sub-chapter. One thing in common is both pure sciences and economics results are hard to apply in real world with different settings. The model evolves when the old setting is no longer a concern of study in economic fields. However, Rodrik stressed fresh models that don't need to replace the old one, but bring a new dimension to it. So Rodrik agreed and stressed that we progressing the model when the model has been restudied and bring a new dimension to it. It is not to replace but to improve it. Others in the economic field, Rodrik also tells us about the authority and the hierarchy in the economic field knowledge. Economic field, the author said there is no hierarchy. Anyone can criticize others' model with valid arguments. And then Rodrik highlighted.
We are losing you, Jackie.
When model is used to highlighting error, it also enables
We can't hear
Hello.
you. It's okay. Sorry.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam. You have to repeat again.
Am I back?
Yes, now you are back.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh.
We can hear you. Okay. Where is it? Excuse me. Hello?
I think there is an internet problem, so we can wait.
You are
Assalamualaikum.
back.
Yes, finally.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Please.
Bad
Please
connection
continue.
there. All right.
Sure, no problem.
Where was
Yes.
I?
Yes, that one. This slide.
Here?
Yes.
So Rodrik bring the Reinhardt and Rogoff study, who have been criticized by a graduate student in economics, to state that there is no hierarchy in economic field. Rodrik is also highlighting that when a model is used to highlighting error, it also enables to correct other model. Wrong versus not even wrong. Rodrik write this chapter to brings up Einstein's quote, how scientific knowledge is nothing but a refinement of everyday thinking. It means that the scientific knowledge in everyday science, as we study economy and we prove economy as a social sciences, how the study in economy will evolve within days. It can be understood that he can conclude that an economic model can be refined, restudied, and evolve in terms of progressing. Moving on to the Islamic worldview, idea of the author that may potentially not compatible with the Islamic worldview. Again, as he mentioned repeatedly, Rodrik did not believe that there is any model to be practiced in economic is universally valid. Islam, which is the best way of life, believed to be universally valid in every aspect as Islamic economists want to apply in economy. But I think maybe I misinterpret the writing, so it may be this argument may be not valid. So what are the lessons for Islamic economists? First, includes behavioral aspect and moral aspect in religious context to answer the normative analysis in building the Islamic view of economic principle or economic model to freshen up the dense old generation model. We can win the rule-based reasoning. The rule-based reasoning, the term that mentioned, that quoted from Gilboa. But a further study must take in action in case-based reasoning in economic analysis, and then we must willingly to take risks to apply the Islamic economic principle in real world if and only if the study done precisely, transparent, hypothesis and outcome, so the positive outcome can be its selling point. That's all for chapter 2. Thank you.
Can I again look at the last slide just now? Because I want to get you to explain Gilboa. What is that? Can you explain further this rule-based reasoning? Is it
Okay.
anywhere in the book? If you can remind me on it.
Yes. Sorry. Billboard. Yeah, in page number 70 or 72, between that, Isaac
Okay.
Gilboa and his co-authors provide a useful analogy in their distinction between rule-based and case-based learning. In everyday as well as professional life, they write, people use both rule-based reasoning and case-based reasoning for making predictions, classification, diagnostics, and for making ethical and legal judgments. So I understand that with the rule-based reasoning, we can win it by using the fiqh. But in the case-based reasoning, there is some study need to be conducted on it.
Okay, we have lost the connection with Shakir. Oh, he's back. Okay, Shakir.
I'm so sorry.
No, mind. Just proceed. Yeah. Just continue with your answer just now. You're talking about rule-based.
Yeah, rule-based reasoning, we can win it by introduced with fiqh and Sharia studies. But in case-based reasoning, there must be a study to be conducted.
Okay, so we have to combine. Are you implying that we have to combine both?
Yes.
Okay. Throughout, I think even in chapter 1 and chapter 2, there is this you can find and search the word regularity. There's a lot mentioned about regularity. So what does this, why does that matter? Why does regularity matters? You can control F and look for the word regularity, and I believe there's quite a number there, at least 4 or 5. I haven't searched for it, but I think
for chapter 1 and 2, only one result.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
because I see. Okay, let's look at this.
Regularity, right?
Page, my paging is not the same as yours. That's the thing. Right after scientific progress.
Yeah. Regularities.
How many?
Yeah, there are many. All right. What was your question?
The question is why does that matter? Why is it? Just like in the case of Islamic in Quran, we see the concept mal, the word mal mentioned 86 times. Then we know it implies some weight, some importance. So similarly here, if you look at the word regularity or regularities, there is some emphasis. But now my question is, why does that regularity matter? What does that imply? Why are we interested with regularity?
Anyone from my fellow group members?
Only the captain is left in the ship. I hope it's not a sinking ship. Why? I'm trying to make the question general so that you can see the usability or usefulness of this line of questioning. Because I'm sure you know when it's part of ilmu ulumul Quran, right? My question is a common question, so you should be able to understand my question at least before you answer and respond to it. Put it differently, is economics about regularity?
Yes.
How? What kind of regularity are you interested?
Behavior.
Behavior. So with that regularity, what good does it offer when we want to do modeling?
So that we the model is useful.
Model is useful. How so?
When
the more regular activity, the more useful or the less useful?
The more useful.
Hafiz answered the more useful. Okay.
Yes.
How? Why is it useful? Now explain to me. In what way is it useful? What is useful? What becomes useful?
Our model will become useful, and it will more more obvious, more explicit.
Okay.
Because when we have behavior of people that not regular, so this will be further to our model. Because one of the costs to bring the over to the model is randomness of human behavior. When we have the non-regularity, so our model will cannot get the precise.
Okay, good.
Result.
I can understand your reasoning there.
Yeah.
Now I want to bring back to my question about the Madinan society.
Yes.
Madinan society is a model.
Yes.
Tell me, where is the regularity factor? How do you value it? If you want to look at over time, let's say today's practice, do you see regularity in it that will support? Is there enough regularity in today's practices that can support Madinan society model?
No, I think should we wait or we answer, sir?
Yeah, you can answer because yeah.
I think regularity in Madinah time is more. I think it's better because there was control by Islamic rule. That is, run the economy to be in balance. Like because if human don't follow Islamic, we have holding. There is no holding in Islam. So if there is holding, it will be the how to say.
Okay, now based on your response, let me ask you now. So what good? What in today's time? Yes. Why should we still be repeating about Madinan model? What good does it give if we keep on repeating about Madinan model? When you yourself said regularity is not there.
Yeah. Regularity is there. I mean, regularity is there in Medina, right?
No, in today's time.
Today's time.
You have model, the Madinah model.
Yes.
Just now you said when we bring that model to in today's time.
Yes.
There's no regularity.
No. You mean, is it useful for this time?
Yes. How is it useful?
Because it will a lot of problem in economy system. So if we look at the distance between the rich and poor is very far. That is because of lack of some rule. That is, in Medina time, there is rule to balance this problem. But nowadays, like when we don't practice the Medina rule, so it increase the problem, the distance between rich and poor people.
Okay, so does that mean now, Hafiz, does that mean that the Islamic economist role is to promote Islamic State, IS?
No. It's not mean Islamic role is not it's not only for Islamic State. Actually, it's useful for every state. It's useful for every society.
Can I add some points?
Sure, Shakir. We want to avoid extremism here. Yes, Shakir, please.
So I think because one of the advantage that let's say from the Medina rule, that it have been regularities before, but it's rarely practiced in our current era. So we can see there's so many problems occurs when they practice other than that, and the problem actually can be answered when we practice the, let's say, the Madinah model.
Sure, but what about the critical assumption just now? Any model requires critical assumption.
Yes.
So without the critical assumption, there's no point talking about the model.
So
or maybe my logic is wrong.
So the question is?
Yeah, the question is, shouldn't we be thinking about augmenting the model? Looking at today's current time. Looking at the real critical assumption that can be used today. Can we go along that line? Because now we're thinking about how do we think like an Islamic economist. I give you the question just now. Remember, there's no hierarchy. Right?
Yes.
On your slide, there is this word hierarchy. That is one example, right? Where there is a younger economist. Okay?
Yeah.
So, why does that story interesting? Which model is better? The younger student, the student, or the professor? Big name professor?
The younger student.
Okay. If you were to ask, which critical assumption is better? The younger student's one or the professor's one? Huh?
The youngest, I think.
The younger, because the model works.
Yes.
Model works, tells us critical assumption is correct. I mean, better.
Yeah.
Remember, critical assumption is what makes the model good.
Yeah.
Okay. It's from chapter 1, and chapter 2 is actually evolving that narrative. Okay. Okay, so I guess that's the time that we have for the presentation. I hope you can see my points and also my questions. Yes, we will just proceed later, 7:40. We'll see each other again. And again, as I said, today's session will be longer than usual. We expect around 9:40 then to end. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's see each other at 7:40. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
See you again at 7:40. Yeah. Don't leave the session. It's just that we'll be having a break for Maghrib. Okay, so yes. Thank you very much. Stop recording. Okay.